6, the year 2000, and is today actually Uncle Joe's birthday?
No, my birthday was actually on the 30th of April, but nobody can arrange a birthday on it during the week. It has to be on a weekend
Okay.
in order to get someone
someone to celebrate.
So do you remember the first birthday you celebrated with Uncle Joe? Were you married then, or were you dating?
Oh, I'm sure we were dating.
And where was that at? What city?
Pasadena.
Pasadena, California.
Pasadena.
We probably went to Mother Goose for a sandwich.
And you weren't teaching Sunday school then, were you?
I was teaching Sunday school.
So you were a religious person then, huh?
No, not a bit.
Then you started hanging out with me. You got.
Not a bit, honey.
But you're a little religious. So did Uncle Joe? Was he in one of your classes?
No.
No.
Lou was.
Lou was wonderful.
He
She
was
was
a bad
good.
boy. He used to chew gum. And I tell him to spit it out. And he'd hide it in his mouth and not spit it out.
He was pretty independent, like
But he was cute.
like Ronnie in many ways.
Right.
You know, Ronnie's that way.
Yeah.
But you really didn't realize he was that tall, Uncle Joe.
No, I certainly didn't.
You haven't really seen it.
Well, as many as a child growing up,
Yeah, no, you
I'm
didn't see it.
familiar, but I never realized he was as tall as he is.
Yeah, I think he's taller than Lou, actually.
Taller?
He's probably
I think he is.
yeah.
I think he's over 6 feet.
Yeah, I think.
Lou is more than 6 feet.
No,
Isn't he?
Lou's about my size.
How tall? Harry was tall.
Harry was taller than all of you, I
That's who
think.
he reminds me of.
Yeah.
Harry.
And I think if Harry stood up straight like Uncle Joe, he probably was 6'9".
He'd be the tallest.
Yeah. I saw Julie down at the Seder service at Thelma and Lou's.
Yeah.
She's such a sweet lady.
Yeah.
You know what she said to me once? She said, I had to have the most loving mother and father. And I said, why is that? She said, well, anybody could stick with me after 4 or 5 marriages. They really had to love me. I thought it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Pretty good test.
All right, so then you were married then in what city? In Pasadena?
Pasadena.
And then when was it that you went out to the Midwest?
We went to the Midwest in 1950. We came back to California in 1970. We came back, we were in Los Angeles, in Century City, in the high-rise for 5 years. I was still under contract with our old firm. Then came out to Palm Springs, and
Let me tell you something.
this is heavenly.
Why we went to Kansas City, honey? Should I tell them about Archibald Young?
About who?
We played bridge, Joe and I, at a regular bridge game with our old history teacher from high school. We both had him. And his friend, Carl Wiesenbach. And when we told them we were moving, and we were moving to Kansas, Carl said to us, why in the world are you doing that? You're really going to Kansas to make enough money to live in California. And you're in California.
Well, Uncle Joe, were you then contracted with that same firm?
Yeah.
I mean, did you work for them before you actually went out to Kansas?
Oh, no, this is
This is
I was through with my contract with Beatrice Foods, and I was, as a matter of fact, I was out on my own for 2-3 years. I was in the shoe manufacturing business, shoe distribution business, and then this opportunity came up in Kansas in 1950, which I took.
Oops.
Hold everything.
We're
The rest
gonna
of the
see
party,
that.
when you guys,
Hey, where are the folks?
They are
Good.
Throw up.
Where are y'all
Okay.
with luggage?
You
So-
put me in one of your classes and all.
But the whole family,
Where do you guys want this luggage?
I'll tell you, there's 3 good-looking guys. Aunt Lil,
Luggage.
What luggage?
You gotta be fine
Let's
this
see.
building. I'm just kidding, Granny.
What
I'm
luggage?
teasing the camera.
You're losing
Oh,
You're
I'm
losing
sorry.
yours.
so Larry, you remember anything about Kansas at all?
Do I remember anything about Kansas?
Yeah.
You live in Kansas. You never lived in Kansas.
Sure.
Oh, did I live in Kansas?
You never knew that.
Village? Sure, I lived in Kansas for 4 years, all through high school.
Uncle Joe, if you could come in a little bit more, you can,
You can be in.
there's only one guy there's only one 90-year-old guy here.
You should be, come on.
Did you get down,
Get down's the easy part.
Uncle Joe, did you get down on your knees when you proposed to Aunt Lil?
Absolutely.
You really did?
Honey, he never proposed.
He never
We
proposed.
just came
She
back.
Daisy
after-
Hawkinson.
Nah.
After 10 years of,
Oh, this,
After 2 kids, they figured it was time to make the leap.
After Larry was born, we decided to get married.
did your mom ever get, I could never see her yelling or screaming, or your dad either, Larry.
No.
Did she ever lose her temper, lose
I've
it?
seen my mother flip out.
I've seen her.
No, really?
Yeah, oh
You gotta see those back games.
yeah. I've seen her freak out. She can come unglued pretty good.
Is,
Not
do, you,
this guy.
do you deny that, Aunt Lil?
never attempted.
Aunt Lil, you never lost your temper, did you?
Never shit. I remember
And you
one
gotta
day
be
I was
careful about
driving.
what you say.
I remember one day
It
she
could
was
get
driving
ugly.
with me in my car and she flipped out so bad. She was about this high off the seat for 30 seconds before she kicked me.
Really?
All right.
Do you remember that, what that was about, Aunt Lil?
No,
You know, I'm
But
going
this
up,
guy, nothing like
I'm
that.
gonna be at the club from now on. You bring
From
mother
now
up.
on?
You bring mother
What's
up.
that? What's this?
You're going to.
He said, well, I thought I was having a heart attack. I said, what do you think I do for a living? You know, why didn't you call me? He said, I didn't want to bother you. So I wrote him up and I sent him to the hospital myself. And I called one of my partners, who was this wonderful guy that I personally recruited from the University of Pennsylvania about 12 years ago. And I said, would you do a cardiac cath on an otherwise intact 91-year-old guy with a little bit of aortic stenosis, like what Joe has? And he says, yeah, sure. I said, fine. Well, I'm setting him up for your schedule for tomorrow. It's my father. And he went, oh. So, you know,
Unbelievable.
um,
People will not do or will do.
So you had a
No.
cath.
How's he-
so he had a cath, and he had a critical lesion in a dominant circ,
So you got a
and it was
angioplasty?
angioplasty and stented. So he had a heart attack on Tuesday. I sent him to the hospital on Wednesday. He was cath on Thursday, and Friday morning he went home.
Do you have any?
And Monday he
damage?
started walking again and back to the senior center.
How does echo look?
He's got a 75-80% EF. He's got a hyperdynamic LV.
People, it's.
I think he's got the right attitude.
Well, that's-
His casual attitude's what's kept him.
But he complained that he.
Could be, Larry, could be on that.
The second time an event like this happened, about 2 years ago, I'm at a meeting one night, my beeper goes off, and the message is, call your cousin about your father. So I call my cousin, what's the story? She says, my God, have you listened to your father cough and breathe lately? I said, I saw him 2 days ago, he's fine. She said, I called to wish him happy birthday, and he could barely talk and breathe at the same time. So I went over there and I went, holy mackerel. This is a guy who runs a heart rate of 48 or 50 a minute. He was about 106. He was flushed. He was hot as hell. And he's coughing. And I pulled his shirt up and I listened, and he's got growls in both lungs. So I said to him, how would you like to get a chest x-ray done? He says, yeah, okay, fine. When? I said, how about right now? So I took him to the ER. He had bilateral infiltrates. He had a PO2 in the low 50s.
Boy.
And
Was his lung
What is that?
yeah, he had bilateral pneumonia, and he was as hypoxic as could be. So, you know, he was in the hospital a week and a half, and he coughed for about a
Hi,
week.
Dolly.
So, and the message was, if you don't feel good, call me. You know, it was like, why didn't you call me? And
He
his
didn't.
answer was identical. I didn't want to bother you.
I can't believe it. Honey, I.
The tables.
I didn't go to home.
Joe said he was going to. I can't believe that. I told him not to worry about
Well,
it.
he wanted to show him where the equipment goes.
Oh, Linda's got this already.
I had a motorcycle.
Well, Linda.
She's on
There's a
the
big TV already there. They're not gonna go that.
She's at the club now.
We should
probably
go
to the club.
Tanya Kumari.
You want to go to the club?
Well, we better
Set
set
a
the
while
videos.
back when I was in
Let's set up.
Oslo.
There's a giant projector up there and Rob went up to stick up a
And Rob went up
VCR.
Oh,
to
Rob.
Linda.
Yeah.
We put
Set
the,
it up.
what do you call
And
it?
We were gonna go back to
so, for
the
me,
hotel and
Yeah,
change
we might wanna,
clothes.
the tables, the chairs are like all, at least when I was there, they were all just.
you gotta move close
up. Yeah, it's not
It's gotta be
conducive to interaction, it's sort of more like sitting in the audience with your
It's like a lecture.
From
What?
Pondicherry down to Madras, down to Madurai, and then I just did a
What?
clean sweep across.
Am I right?
Most of the tables are set for eight.
Yep. Where's that?
So you know, Aunt Lil, you know all these people here? They all belong here? They're okay?
Real well, and I know them.
Spend a little time on your knees, I see.
I fell down here. Oh, you know it. You are very active. You know it, Judy.
Yeah, you got a really bad bruise. Did Did you hurt it a lot?
Yeah, it sure looks like it
You
hurts.
know, I was very happy.
And it's what they
I've been
need.
worried about my calcium,
Soil needs.
Yeah.
my bones.
Oh, so this was a test. Hey, it's working. Joining us. Some of you from very far, and some not so far. The distance doesn't make any difference. It's the fact that you're here that really counts.
Good.
And I have to tell you that, yes, let's hear Granny also. Good. Now, Granny's doing this the right way. This is the whole idea. You think you're here to watch a video, right?
Yes.
Wrong. What we have here is an opportunity for everyone in the audience to participate. So this is like a live theater. In fact, we have a director here
Yeah.
from Toronto.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for everybody to, now, there are pictures here, and I don't want to say that they weren't recently taken. Is that the politically correct way to say they were taken a while ago? And
In the
a
past.
short while ago, sometime in the past. And in that, there are going to be opportunities for us to identify who's in there. Well, we can see if you can identify yourself. And the other thing is that we do not have a very good archives in our family. And so we were able to piece some things together, and unfortunately, we couldn't find everybody. So the lack of inclusion is because maybe like my family, my parents started destroying things in my early years very quickly. Remember the shredder? To try and separate themselves. It was a little bit difficult. But no, we did. We had a flood in Kansas in the basement. And I caught them one day throwing things into the water. But, so this is really kind of to it. That's why we're sort of theater style here. And this will be as good as you make it. And we'll see how if anybody can recognize what's going on. Okay?
So in other words, you guys are supposed to talk and
Right.
heckle. We'll stop the video whenever you need.
That's
I'd
right.
like to buy a vowel, please.
Okay.
Roll them.
Roll them. All right.
Click.
Play.
Play.
Can you turn the volume down a little? Can you turn it down? In the 33 years between the assassination of Tsar Alexander II and the outbreak of World War I, approximately 1/3 of the Eastern European Jews left their homelands. There were 2 million of them, and they settled mostly in large American cities where they attempted to maintain their Yiddish culture. Then, as a result of both external and internal pressures and their desire for a better life, they made their way into American society. In 1870, there were 60,000 Jews in New York City. By 1880, the estimate had risen to 80,000. And by 1910, a special year, there were 1.1 million, each one full of hope, promise, and special talents. They would go forward and build the foundation of the great society that we all enjoy today. This is a story of one of them, a special one, my father, Joe. In his book, The Greatest Generation, Tom Brokaw wrote, they came of age during the Great Depression and the Second World War and went on to build modern America. Men and women whose everyday lives of duty, honor, achievement, and courage gave us the world we have today. With the help of Shelley Schmolken and Dan Nenzer's work, we were able to piece together this account of their early years. Yosel and Miriam Press lived in the village of Vishnevets in the western Ukraine. They had 8 children, one of them Isidore, born in 1884. Yosel died when Isidore was 9. He was given to a tailor to learn the trade. He became a skilled tailor, moved to Kolodna, and married Rebecca Plotka. Rachel, their firstborn, arrived in 1905, and by 1907 they had enough money to cross into Austria and begin their journey to America. The population in 1910 was 91.9 million. There were 46 states. The largest city in the world in 1910 was London. The average hourly wage was 63 cents. Stamps were a nickel, a pound of coffee was a nickel, and a Studebaker was $1,700.
How much does a Toyota?
They're worth more. That's right. And prohibition was just voted on in 4 states.
I think.
It's a history lesson. Not a lot of history. That's right, you can pay attention because
You guys,
we're gonna have a
example.
test. That's right.
Test?
There's gonna be a test. But as you can see, Austria was falling. Now, here we go. Who knows who that is?
How old is he?
Hasn't changed a bit.
Yes. That's what Granny said.
Doesn't change the bit.
He's skinnier.
When I showed this picture the first time, my mother went around to the back to see what was back there. To see the rest of it.
Boy or a girl?
But he looks pretty much the same, huh? That's right. Of course, Grandma and Grandpa. A really innocent mama.
A really nice grandpa too.
Their first stop was Alabama. Went to Bay Manhattan. You see who's in there?
Yeah.
Now who's where?
Daisy.
Daisy? Huh? Rachel.
Louis.
There's Joe. That's Papa. Right there.
That's Abe.
Abe Buck.
Which one is it? So that's the brother of Grandma? Grandma. Is he nephew of Grandma?
Johnny Lee.
Looks just like this.
Oh, like Kristen. Yeah, they do.
Look at the resemblance.
That's which one you Phil Bluntness. This one?
But you know,
That's Harry.
This one's Uncle Harry.
Okay, in the back. Oh, there he is. No, the next one.
Is that Uncle? That's Daisy. That's Papa. There you go.
Now, there was school in Alabama. School.
That was the whole school.
Start problem right here. Yeah, do you remember anybody else there?
That's Lillian's father.
You see anybody there that you recognize?
I really don't.
Do we get the fight song?
Yeah.
Go for it. Go.
We'll join it.
They play ball, they don't mind all day long.
Wait. Once more so we can all learn it. How's it go?
Song for the school.
Those Bay Minette boys, swear they must be.
Leave my soul face on.
They play ball all day, they don't mind it all day long.
Baby and boys are high-minded.
I believe in my soul, they're double jointed. They play ball and they don't mind it.
I have his great card here. He didn't want me to read it.
Whoa, C minus?
Yes. 3 D's and a C. I don't think that's true. So here we are. We've moved to Pasadena and went to work at the Market Basket.
no, Mr. and Mrs.
The
Pepper.
fruit stand.
Mr. Pepper's
Pepper's Fruit.
This is the first of Dr. Pepper's fruit stand.
So who's who?
I was
That's
certainly.
Joe.
This is you? Is that Mr.?
What is it?
I like Joe's hat.
Yeah.
That was the that is the cutting edge of the headwear.
You know something? To this day, every time we go to the store, we get a new explanation of how you pick out produce. Now we know where it came from.
Louis, did you work at this still? Also?
I was a little bit young.
Too young.
Yeah, that time I was two.
That's all we had. We were working there.
That's Uncle Dave.
This is Uncle Dave.
That's Uncle Dave.
All right.
We just found out some history, and that is that Cousin Gershowitz came to California first, and then that's why the family came to California.
One of the
Because
reasons, yeah.
they were supposed to go to Florida to a more cosmopolitan place than Bay Minette. Rachel that turned
Oh,
into
there
it.
it goes.
And the fifties who lived, our closest neighbor that was out there, we had 7 sons.
Bring him back.
And one
Bring
day
him.
she said to me,
Come here.
and one day she said to my mother that Rachel would make a beautiful bride. The next day they sold the barn for $3,000. Moved into Mobile while they were deciding where to go. They felt that they wanted to stay in the moderate climate because the children had grown up in Bay Minette. And so they were going to go to Florida, but then there was a hurricane. So then they decided that that was not a place to move us precious children. So they knew they had a cousin. Molly was one, and with her 2 cousins in Los Angeles. So they immediately booked reservations for Los Angeles.
On the train.
On the train. They had just bought, we had one of the first Dodges in the country that had recently been bought. And there was no roadway to Mobile at that time. You had to take the ferry. And so we went down to Fairhope to put the car on the ferry, which was loaded with, this was one car at that time. There were 6 of us, Mama, Papa, and a coffee can that had a little puppy. And Rachel so missed the car, so she took the latest little puppy and had him there. And as the car was to go up the ramp to get on the ferry, one of the wheels slipped. They got it out all right, but that was an omen not to take the ferry. So they quickly sold the car and took the train, and we went to Mobile where my cousin, my uncle had a dairy. He'd come with nothing but had built this big dairy there. And then we got a Chevrolet. I think a Chevrolet.
You have a good memory for cars.
And to get a family with 6 children and a puppy dog into a car, you remember it.
Yeah.
But we got there, they decided that they better take the train under the circumstances.
That was a good sign.
Yeah.
So, Daisy,
And
we
yes.
always hear the motivation was for Rachel to get married, is that?
Well, not
Seriously,
not to get married, not to get
She was of marriageable age.
to one of the petty boys.
They wanted her to find a
You want to remember, there was not another Jewish family in the entire county.
But didn't you guys go with like many families from New York?
From New York to Bay Minette.
But they all went back.
To Mobile.
They all went back.
This is 10 years later. We spent 10 years in Bay Minette.
Yeah. Then they moved
For
on.
me, from age 3 to age 13. Moving.
Well, there was one.
Boss is hungry.
Hold it here.
Joe, there was the Tobins.
That's in Mobile.
Yeah, but he started, later on he was.
This is great.
Is that him? Joe and Lil, and then Miriam. This one's Miriam.
This is Miriam.
Is that you, Daisy?
Is that Daisy?
Yeah.
Is that you?
They had bikinis back then?
That's it.
Rachel?
Oh, Rachel.
That looks like Rachel.
No, Rachel.
This looks like Rachel.
This campus, because this picture took a long time, and you were waiting to play tennis over inside. Do you remember that, Boss?
Oh, boy. There's somebody going for it. Yeah, you're standing in front of a borrowed car?
It was a Hupmobile.
We're gonna say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Now we went into the war years, a young kid in ROTC, graduated in 33 with your officer's commission.
First graduating class from UCLA?
First graduating
From the
class.
Westwood, from the Westwood campus.
He does, huh?
That's his paralegal.
Rex Harrison, what's that mean? You don't get who came first.
Right? Two-fisted guns, right? This is double barrel.
Where's this? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
She really wanted to be a cowboy.
Where was it?
This was either Fort Order in Australia.
Wow. It's like Australia.
Gee, I didn't know the Japanese invaded Australia.
They were
He was holding them off.
That was all you do, show that picture of it, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, we must go.
Yeah.
What was your rank?
Lieutenant, I don't know what it was here, Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel.
At the end.
Here he is hard at work. We heard of all the stories of the rough bivouacs and fighting. So here's the real picture.
Yeah, but he had an office with a window.
That's right. Came back. Well, a decorated war hero.
Yep.
Came back.
That's what came back.
Yes. That's where you came back.
Hasn't changed.
A little more gray hair.
This picture was taken 17 months after the day he came back.
I hate to tell you, Jim, that was you.
Legion of Merit.
Cool.
President Washington Star is the most prestigious award that they have in the Army.
Right.
Non-combat.
Non-combat. So he's a decorated war hero. He started.
Never looked better, Larry.
It's been downhill since that day.
There's Larry. Larry.
All he wants is his two front teeth.
Hey, what would a dentist say about
That's
that?
good. Hey, Jim. No, it's too late.
Oh, my goodness.
Here's some. This is the earliest movie.
Grandpa, yeah.
Why not?
I know.
Yeah, that's Pops.
This is at 3.
Yep.
321.
321 Winona.
321 Winona.
That's like a freeway now.
See if you can recognize it.
That's Larry.
Larry.
Larry's clowning again.
There's Jim was there a minute ago. Jim was there. Why didn't you let you were there?
Maybe.
Yeah, you were there, but.
Grandpa.
That's a good picture.
Yeah. Good picture,
They're getting married.
There's Lou Nemser.
There's Lou Nemser.
And Daisy.
That's Uncle Lou.
That must be Kenny.
No, it's Lou Nemser.
That's Lou.
No,
That's
who's Lou
Down
holding
below
on?
him.
Who's Lou, Uncle Lou holding on to?
There's
I
a
think
twin.
that was Kenny.
There's the twin. Can you back it up? Can you read? There's Mary go back twins.
Yeah.
Uncle Lou Nemser had a kid by the hand.
Yeah.
That's gotta be Kenny.
Is that Kenny or Sidney?
It's Kenny.
Or maybe it's now it's Dan.
And who's that then, you guys? Who's that one?
Oh.
Looked like
There's Ian and Mary.
Ruth Press's brother looked like he was in there. Huh?
Who's the dog?
Who's the dog?
That's the twins' dog.
Can everyone remember the dog's name?
Whitey.
Whitey? That's pretty original.
Whitey was originally Gladys's, and she gave him to us when we
Oh, really?
That's Janet.
Is that Janet?
Go back.
Back up, Jim.
Okay.
That's Mr. Nemser there. Lou's dead.
Yeah, that's it.
Mr. Nemser.
There's Evelyn.
Yeah.
I like his name.
That's Lou's father.
This Jim?
Evelyn, look at you. Yeah, Rachel. I'd actually.
That's Kenny.
Who's that in the cowboy outfit?
Ronnie. Those are good girls. Boy, you done it.
No.
I think that is Ronnie.
Who's?
Ronnie always wanted to be a cowboy.
Daisy.
It could be Gannon.
Ryan was there, huh? Yeah. Haven't changed much? This is?
That's high.
Kenny.
That's Kenny? Kenny's here is Kenny?
Yeah.
Whitey.
No, he's a twins dog.
Where did Whitey?
We had busy, we had his life.
Whitey was a visitor.
That's Jim. That's Jim.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whitey. Hey, well,
Well,
there's
that
more
Whitey's
pictures
a
of
ham.
Whitey than anything.
Do we like to Whitey?
There's Charlie.
I'm hiding.
There's Uncle Lou. Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
With the
back.
parasol, huh?
What year was this?
Back it up, will you, Jim?
Back it up?
Yes,
Yeah,
see
back
Carol
up and
again.
see like.
Carol wants to see
It was
herself.
51, I think.
51 would be right.
This is in 1951.
Carol and Janet is Rachel.
What month was Ronnie born?
December, Ronnie was born.
So it could be.
The Harold, the day your life changed forever.
Say when.
Okay, go ahead.
Why is that?
Just to see.
Oop.
Oh.
Is that Carol and Janet?
Yeah.
There's Thelma. So is that Thelma?
No, that's Rachel.
That's Rachel.
She's so short, she can't see. Stop.
Let's see you do that again. This is synagogue,
That's at the temple on
the
Walnut.
temple,
Yeah.
the whole family.
Oh, this is the apartment.
Yeah. The temple.
Yeah.
Where?
Mary and Ben, huh?
In my place.
Prior. Is that when they got married?
Yeah. We were the listeners.
Here's the famous picture everybody's got, right? That's the one that Larry's not in.
Yeah. I was in Canton.
Yeah. This is when we moved to Kansas,
Louis'
and
father.
that's
Mr. Jacobs.
Mary's father.
What, how come Whitey's there?
Whitey came.
Kidnapped Whitey.
Why did he travel?
That was Patrick the
That's
Evil.
right, that's Pat.
Look at that picture.
This was this was the business in Kansas that brought Father out there, and it's a limestone mine they took out, it was empty, and they were originally going to put car parts in it.
Mushrooms.
And Father, because of his background in the grocery business, had the idea to start putting frozen food in here that would be grown in the West and consumed in the East, and they'd stop in Kansas, and that's where they'd store it. And that's how,
Didn't they
yeah, I remember that.
My kids loved it because Uncle Joe gave them candy every day.
Swab's candy, you used to have
Yeah.
Swab's candy, yeah.
Well, we
The,
had candy because
yes, that's right, Larry's Cars.
Yeah, and he also made us work there in the summer. It was no fun. It made us want to go to college. Though.
Orange
orange juice can for radiator.
The radiator cap, that's right.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Sorry, Jim.
This is Hubert Humphrey, a letter from
Wow.
then Vice President Hubert Humphrey.
The president never sent him a card.
No,
I wrote 3 months ago.
So this is then, this is
Not
Mr.
giving us money
Dillingham.
in the Democrat Party.
He was the president of the Kansas City Area Chamber of Commerce, and then father, before that, was the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Kansas
Congratulated
City.
him when he
No,
became.
he followed father.
Right, so before
Yeah.
that, father, and then
Yeah,
this is
and then
congratulating the new guy. This is the president of Trans World Airlines, Mr. Tillinghast.
Right.
It's on your birthday.
Yeah.
No, this is Governor Dole, Governor
Dockey.
Dockey.
Oh, this is Governor Dockey. Yeah.
Good governor.
They were both Bob.
Yeah.
You notice all these Humphrey and Dole, they didn't make it.
Nice work, Bob.
Yeah. Dude, that was a stair.
That
Huh?
was a stare back there.
Where? I missed Rick Links.
Dad, this is before you went to Israel. I
Yeah.
remember that picnic.
That's way before you
No,
went.
I remember that picnic. This is before you were going. And it wasn't Brookside, it was someplace else.
Like what year was this?
There,
Oh, yeah.
right
There I
there.
went.
That was
Would
the
be
stare.
71.
Back it up,
Back it up.
Right, that,
forward.
I walked through there very quickly.
Yes,
Even
indeed,
then
she's
I
a
didn't
fast
remember
mover.
the picture taking. Slow.
Now we're already,
Keep going.
Slow.
Keep going.
Step by step, inch by inch.
There.
It's a stair. It's a stair. Stair. It's a stair.
Keep there.
okay. Yay. There you go.
Yeah.
Charlie?
Yeah.
That's
Charlie.
Louis.
Uncle Sam.
And Edith is down there.
Thelma.
This is walking away. Uncle Harry.
Harry?
Harry.
That's not Uncle Harry.
Yes, it was.
Whoa.
He can spit water.
Ah, Larry.
Better than me.
What do you say, Larry?
Yeah.
This was in 1971.
Yeah, he was really.
Do you have Uncle Harry spitting water?
She never learned to walk, but she reads great.
Where's John throw the ball? John, I'm surprised.
There's
It's
Jason.
Jason. Yeah. So then we had a marriage,
Yeah.
a wedding, Linda and I.
Hey, Jim, you politically correctly skipped some marriages.
We wanted to keep it down to less than 7 hours.
Right, that's right. Dancing at the wedding. And another wedding.
There's
Who's
Uncle
that
Dave.
good-looking
Uncle
guy?
Dave.
from West
Our family grew.
That's a good shot.
Yeah.
70th birthday.
I think Robbie and I
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I was in med school.
There's
No,
Jeff.
I didn't see it. Oh, there, sure enough.
Still working on it.
First thing in video.
Oh, I'll be honest.
Looking good.
Where's Janet?
There's Janet.
Where's she?
No, that's the back of her head.
Yeah, that's right.
That's Joe.
There's the man of the hour.
Yeah.
The man.
Yeah,
That's Nancy.
that was Uncle Eddie popped in.
Yeah.
Uncle Eddie.
That's Nancy's mother. Nancy, that's your mom?
Yeah.
What she say is, get that camera out of my face.
She probably did.
That's Nancy's mother, Aunt
Everyone
Nell.
was saying it was costing. There's Daisy.
Shot at Daisy.
Linda.
That Eileen.
Linda. That was Linda.
I mean, Linda.
There's Jay, I think.
That's
And Janet.
Is that Danny?
With a beard.
That's how you tell it jokes, but you can't hear the sound.
Jay?
Remember his last?
Oh, that's Norman.
There's Carol! Hey, there's Carol. There was a lady.
That's Louis before he became a teacher.
That was your drinking days. Yeah?
There you are, Papa.
There?
There's all the pearls. What a classic picture.
Back it up?
Who's the guy with the cigar in his mouth?
That
Yes?
was Norman.
There's Linda.
Nancy.
Is that Edie?
Yeah?
Where were you guys?
There's Nancy. Yeah? Yeah?
There's Norman.
Aaron Montgomery.
Yeah, they went to.
Yeah?
Like your hairstyle, Jim.
Yeah,
Need a haircut.
I know.
Who's that fox?
Skip?
Is that
I
Chris
see it.
or something?
That's Skip.
Christopher? Not yet.
He wouldn't be that.
There's
Dave.
There's Larry. Marcel.
That's the professor.
John.
That's John popping up.
That's John doing this thing there.
Okay, yeah. Ryan Kinney.
That's Raya is a close friend. Henry Kissinger came. That was pretty nice.
Raya's husband.
That's Ryan's second.
That's Raya's husband.
Mrs. Rothenberg.
That's it.
Yeah.
Jane
Jane
Rothenberg.
Rothenberg, Sylvia Shaw.
Sylvia Shaw.
These three girls,
Yeah.
the oldest
They
friends.
were old friends. Well, Aunt Mary.
Yeah.
Are they still living?
Right. He was just back from China.
Did he have a German accent?
Yes, he did. Okay. This was 50 years. That was a long. That was. Yeah. Huh? There we go.
Where's this Phil?
This is at the 50th anniversary party, huh?
Is that Andrew in the middle?
Jim, look at Jim up there.
Yeah.
And Raymond.
Fine looking crowd.
Little Raymond's there. Blue-eyed Raymond.
Lisa.
Okay. You're going to enjoy your life now as empty nesters, right?
Way empty.
Way empty. There was the whole family in San Diego at the 50th.
Vacation Village.
Princess.
That hotel. there.
Vacation Village.
Vacation
Prince
Village.
Knox changed his name again.
Oh, there you are, frolicking in the Red Sea.
That was in the Red Sea.
Yeah. That's your frolicking picture.
That was the.
He told us to go frolic.
That's when they frolic.
That's cool. And then Christopher. More
Little
kids
German
coming.
boy.
Yeah. And his sister.
Little princess.
That's her dog, Whitey.
And Whitey gets around.
All right.
That's her family. I was in Florida when we were living there.
Yeah.
You finally got your dad to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was supposed to send him.
He dressed just like everybody in Florida already. When he got
Hi. Vicky. Vicky.
Who's Vicky?
No, she's the next generation.
Yeah, but still. She's kind of our age.
She's a little girl.
Yeah.
Vicky's granddaughter.
There's Mary and Ben.
There's Marion.
Yeah, Mary.
Those are your your friends for the longest time, right?
Yeah, they were the ones that got married in Las Vegas and the other.
This is from President Clinton and Al Gore. And then, not only were they good friends from writing, but I want to show proof that Father has firsthand experience with President Clinton. They're really very good friends. They write a lot and talk a lot.
But we're not,
And you took Monica out of the picture.
we're not contributing anymore. He didn't send a birthday greeting.
I was really worried with Elizabeth being so close to him. Cardboard figure, so it's okay. Very friendly guy. Palm Springs Life. Father is very involved with the senior center, the Mizell Senior Center here, which is his big. He always has a big passion, whether it be work and family.
Is that you?
UCLA, the Golden Bear Tournament here.
Yep.
Still very active. The Alumni Association.
How many graduated here from UCLA? Put your hands up.
Yeah.
Well,
We got
Generation.
three generations.
Yeah, a lot of UCLA.
This is the Mizell Center.
25 years.
25 years. And then is that,
Oh,
That's Mr. Mizell.
That's Mr. Mizell.
His wife,
yeah?
And the
the
president.
judge. That's the president of the.
She's the president now?
She was
She
the
was.
president, I was the executive vice president.
Marcellus.
Hanging
And
out.
this party.
Hanging out.
Now, just so you know, up to today, the traditions continue. The thing, oops.
What's going on?
Tassels.
What's the say
You got it? Four fashions by little princess. Go ahead.
Why did I have to use it smaller than
No, you go through the, you go
This is the tradition continues. This is why the family continues, is because these traditions that are handed down from one generation to the other. This was 2 weeks ago. So the tradition is still instilled.
Reclining.
So here they are right now. Last summer they came to Catalina Island hiking. This was taken out in the wilderness in Catalina. And he's still got a spark there with someone on his lap. We thank you for joining us for the momentous 90th birthday celebration. Your presence is why this is special. This video will be a way to remind Father and Mother every day of everything that happened and all of the kindness that's occurring today. Thank
Wasn't that good?
That was nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Professor.
Hey, dentist.
Could have been a lot worse.
Rob. Hey, now it's a great movie. Just as a great presentation now with you in here now. Uh-oh.
A close-up. That's what you call a close-up.
Did you film the whole
Film this whole thing, yeah, because they've got that tape and I've got the tape of actually them talking, presenting this. So I videoed the whole thing.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so they'll have that as well. There's one of the great mariners of the century right here.
A mariner?
Yeah, he's a mariner. Well, not a baseball player, but a sailor. He's a sailor.
What kind of boat? I just asked about it. 36 foot. Not sailor.
Got you, Ron. Gotcha.
Actually, I bought a little 23 foot Catalina.
I have no more plans. The whole family went to we went to oh yeah. Long way. Is this Spain? January. We go to
Hello. Beautiful group.
Being filmed again.
This is a record. It's like an official attendance record. It's a painless attendance. No one has to say hi or here or anything like that. Hello, Aunt Evie. Edith and Evie.
And they're really focused on details that have no relevance.
Gotta look for processes. I actually got into that argument. Last week I was in class for this thing called stemming. The guys in stemming were talking about trying to figure out the days, the projections of what's going to change in the history of the next year. You want to know what dates will make as the day for this big change? And people are all very long.
And so are you. You were the first one on tape. This is like an attendance record.
Except you'll have to catch my husband when he finally gets it.
All right. Well, where is he going to?
Missing in action.
Well, I'll come back. There's my partner. That's my man. We got him in the third one.
Interesting soup, which was sort of
guy who's a Volkswagen Beetle, and it's called Tweety car. It's got Tweety bird. That was his last name is Bird, and it's got Tweety bird car. That's a Tweety bird. So that was the outside car. And he and I actually.
Where's Ram? Oh, there he is. There's my man Frank.
I'll rephrase that. Yeah, that was your fault.
Smile, Skip, say something.
Give her a hard time.
Well, my kids give
Well,
me a
this is
hard
a
time.
great
Other people like it.
production
died of
by
blood?
Janet,
Yeah, I'm trying
and you and Mother,
But then when the gray grows
and
out,
Why do you dye it black?
by Jimmy and
her hair is black.
So what?
and Larry was really great. So it was a great afternoon and evening. And it's nice to have
I don't know
her
if
with
it's your hair
Bob,
color. You dyed it so many times. Only your hairdresser
Bob and
knows.
Rob, in case you
And your husband.
Ignore the fact that Ronnie and Ellen are ignoring him. Okay. All right. So go back to Skip.
What do you say? Ignore the what?
Ronnie
I said, ignore the fact that Ronnie and Alan are ignoring you. Just go to Skip. Because we're all listening to Skip. Get back to Skip.
mix up the camera.
My hair in the front is all gray.
Okay, we're back to talking about Carol's gray hair.
We don't even have any hair in the front, so I'm.
Yes, I do. Look.
And she basically
Okay, Skip.
Skip,
Anything else?
No, except to let you and Bob know that I was on Discovery about 2 months ago. What did you
Really?
It
Forensic
was a
channel?
case, yeah, it was a murder case.
You discovered a murder?
Well,
No, he
I
does,
covered and identified the victim of murder in San Diego. The guy thought he would, the way he dealt with it on divorce was to kill his wife and put her in the backyard.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. He was a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and he figured.
Oh, that's always good to know.
That's at least separation.
Exactly, yeah.
And said that was a prolonged separation. So I'll get you a tape of that. Take one. He likes to have his photo. Not only that, he enjoyed being here.
Yes.
Right?
Sing well.
Okay, so we finally got him in the photograph. We know this is like an attendance record. It'll be a short test on everything that went on before.
Trying to hit it again.
Your
Never
punchline.
mind.
You come back.
All right. Listen, we're going to have some informal, easygoing kind of ceremony. Anybody, we're going to let anybody up. This will be an open mic. Anybody who wants to come up and pay their proper tribute, we totally welcome you. Skip, come on. I'm not going to give some kind of a big speech, but just doing this reminiscence, I realized that the first memory, John and I were talking about this when we were driving out today, the first memory that I have in my whole life was my dad coming home on leave during the middle of the war, maybe 1943. And I remember he popped woke me up at night. And he was wearing like an army suit, you know, all tailored in, I remember that. And just remember kind of grabbing him. And that's the last thing I remember until Maybe, well, till I met Marcel, huh? But, no, I was really glad to see him. I loved him a lot. He brought a lot of love and stability, and he's taken care of business ever since that day. And I think it's a really nice tribute to him to have all these people here. And let me ask you, can you imagine kind of a more together 90-year-old man? Does he seem 90 years old? Not a bit. You know? He's taking care of business now as he always has, huh?
There were 39 months passed when I left Larry in San Francisco and came back to see him the first time. Now 39 months.
Wow. So I was 39 months old? He came back after 39 months and I was 38 months old. Yeah, right. You want to say anything about that, Mom?
Money for the United States government. In the Pacific Theater, these soldiers that came over all came over with cash in their pockets, and we didn't allow them to have American dollars in case they got captured. The Japanese so we always had them turn their dollars in. We gave them script. Periodically, we had to assign an officer, courier, to take the money back to the United States. On this particular case, I had a little influence. I was the adjutant general, and I came back after 39 months to see my bride and my number one son.
Well, we were really glad to see him, and we're really glad to see him tonight. We're really glad to see all you guys. So I think we should have a toast with a lot of love to my father, Joe Press, who hardly seems 90 years old. Pops, we love you a lot. Congratulations on your birthday. There they are, Miss America. All right, now, yeah, where's Skip when you need him?
Still there with the red light.
Haven't left you a minute, Larry.
Okay. All right, we're going to have anybody that would like to come up and make a talk. Nobody has to, but we invite everybody to do it, reminisce. I just heard walking around some really neat stories about the old days. But we're going to start off with my brother Jim.
Reminisce a little bit. This is one of the thoughts I have is that when you come together like this as a family, for those that are younger here, I'd like to talk for just a moment, because if you saw those videos and looking at the pictures, we always came together every Sunday at 321. We always went to the Brookside Park, and the family was the unit that kept us all together. And by coming together like that, it planted inside of us the seeds that made us what we are. And now today, with the televisions and all the activities and the swimming meets and the ballerinas and the Lakers and all the other things that we do in life, some of that has been lost. And so coming to a party like this for someone like my father, his 90th birthday, you've got to reflect on the fact that he's like the keeper of the flame. Remember that story about the clan of the cave bear, and there was always somebody who had to keep the flame because nobody knew how to start. They didn't have Zippos, and they didn't have matches, and they needed the flame to stay alive, to keep the animals away, and to prepare their food. And the only way they could do that is if there was a fire somewhere. Somebody in the clan would go and get the fire and keep it and carry it around. It was the most important person in the clan. It was the person who kept the flame. And in my mind, in our family, and where we are today, that's what my father does. He's got the flame. And he wants to give a little bit of that to all of us, and we all have it. And everything that we've accomplished and everything that we are is a reflection of what we've been given from our parents. And a number of us here are lucky. We've got our parents, both our moms and our dads. And also another thing I want to address, and that is in the video today, we were also able to celebrate those that have been part of our life, and they still are. And sometimes it may feel a little sad, but the reality is that's who we are, and we should celebrate the life that everybody has. So that's why this is such a special time for us to come together and a real opportunity to say happy 90th, but to really, for all of us here, to celebrate our lives the way my father has. Thank you.
That's nice, yeah. Pops is done. Okay. Now, I'm not going to call on people, but I do have a list here that Thelma drew up. And guess who's next? Where's Aunt Daisy? Where is she?
Right here.
Oh, there you are.
In Babynet, Alabama, Daisy was born. And these are all wonderful big brothers. I did have pigtails, excuse the expression, but there was no, no pulling of that. I respect them because they were my big brothers. And to this very day, I have no complaints about my brothers. I have a younger brother too, Louis. Yeah. Well, I can't complain about Louis now, but Louis bore the brunt of all the rest of us, and he turned out just great. And married a wonderful wife, Marilyn, and has children. My nieces and nephews are doing so well. So I feel more than doubly blessed to have had a sister like Rachel and brothers like Joe and Harry and being a brother. He has become a big brother since. But today is a wonderful opportunity to see my brothers and all of his friends and his children and grandchildren. And thank you for letting me say this.
Well, on that note, I think we should turn the mic over to the little brother, don't you guys? Oh, I think he's going to sing. Uh-oh. Hold on, here comes a poem.
Not really, but I did think I better make a few notes, make sure I didn't forget anything. And so I wanted to tell you that today's celebration is all about Joe, not about me. And I would like to share my outlook with you on the wonderful life that God has provided for me. As most everyone knows, I was the youngest of 6 siblings, and as a result, I had the benefit of learning so much from my brothers and sisters. I learned graciousness from Sister Daisy. I learned tenderness and humility from David. I learned friendliness from Harry. I learned dedication and forthrightness from Joe. And I learned the work ethic from Rachel, who was like a mother hen to all of us. After our parents' demise and Rachel's passing at a comparatively early age, Joe became the patriarch of our family and has been a wonderful role model for all of us. He has excelled in every endeavor he has undertaken, his illustrious career in the military, his accomplishments in the business world, his community service wherever he has lived. And so every night before I go to sleep, I count my blessings for the outstanding family of which I'm part of, the great friends which make my life so pleasant, and as part of our Jewish heritage, all the male children of the Press family are Cohens, which means we are the descendants of the high priest of Israel. This gives us the privilege of delivering the priestly blessing, which I would like to do. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Adonai panav elecha v'kanecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. Yivaseim l'cho shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord lift up his countenance to you and cause his face to shine upon you. May the Lord bring you love, happiness, and peace to all those assembled here. Amen.
You want to say a word or two?
I might say that 65 years ago, I said yes to Joe, and I never regretted it. It was the smartest decision I ever made.
I don't think he's regretting regretted it either.
I'll read that.
All right. Let's not get too lovey there now. All right.
Larry was talking about earliest memories, and my earliest memories really start, one of the memories at least, is where Papa was teaching me how to throw a football and a baseball. Now, all of you have noticed I have not become a professional football player or a baseball player here. I've had quite a few golf lessons between now and then, and that hasn't worked out too well either. But it was a lot of fun. I would like to say a couple things. First off, of course, happy birthday. I was going to ask you what your favorite birthday was, but not now because there's quite a few to think back on, I'm sure. But it's funny, we all have like sort of conscious learning and unconscious learning. And we go through life and we go to school and we, of course, learn things in class. And Christopher took his SATs recently.
This morning.
Kind of modeled my life after unconsciously, just sort of, that's kind of how it is. And so, kind of on behalf of everybody here, I'd like to thank Papa for giving us somebody we can model our lives after. The character, dedication, compassion for people. So, thank you, Papa. Happy birthday.
Here's John, the first ever grandchild. Well, not in the whole family, or just in yours, but how about with all the, no, on Rachel's side, never mind. Okay, John, the first grandchild of Pops.
Hi, guys. Yeah, sort of following on the note of what Rob said, which is that we have our, what we learn consciously and what we learn unconsciously. And we saw this video today, right? It went generation after generation, and I'm the third generation or fourth generation if we look into what was in the video. And he has lived his life in such a way is that it makes us all just tremendously proud. And I kind of, when I think about myself and when I think about what I do, I think about a little bit, would this make Papa proud? What would Papa do? And I mean, if you look at his life and you look at all you guys are all a tribute to what a great life he's lived, and a sort of a way of life and a way of looking at life, and a sense of pride and a good plan for life. And I think it's been a huge inspiration in my life. In many ways. Recently, I've been working out a lot and losing a lot of weight. That's something that I've done. Those of you who see me like less than every 5 years or so will notice that. And a part of that has been Papa sort of nudging me, going, come on, do this, do this, do this. And it's had a good influence on me. And it's because of him sort of instilling this concept of pride in me. When I teach, I just got through teaching World War II, I get to brag about my grandfather and about the way that we should live our lives and having role models in life. And I really think that, you know, as we watch that video, people mention that we see people come, we see people go, but I really feel that who I am is really largely a reflection of course, my father and the rest of my family, but Papa, because it all stems back through the generations as far back as you can look. And I think that I just, to the extent that what I am what I am, and I'm happy with that, I owe a lot of that to you, Papa.
Okay, we're not finished with Granny, kind of, you know, not such nice stuff. Come on, Hein.
Hi, Joe. Those who know me realize I don't speak too long. But the first time I heard about Joe, I was courting your niece, Marion. And I was a PFC in the U.S. Army. And she was telling me she has an uncle who's a lieutenant colonel. I says, it's impossible. A Jewish lieutenant colonel? Only in America. And in fact, I don't think you guys were at our wedding. You were somewhere in 1946? What? I never forgave you for that. We had a double wedding, Marion and I, and Louis and Thelma, and Joe and Lil were not there. I couldn't believe it. But, you know, lieutenant colonels, they have their way. But the next time I got in touch with Joe and Lil was 1954, and we wanted to buy a new car, and Lil had a relative in Kansas City by the name of Feld, and we managed to get a very, very good deal. You hear that, Jim? A good deal on a 1954 Bel Air Chevrolet, one of the greatest cars I've ever had. I wish I never sold it. But we took the train into Kansas City, and we spent almost a week with Joe and Lil, and I really got to know them real well. And knowing a lot about Joe's political activities in the Kansas City area, I thought he'd introduce me to Harry Truman, but he never got to it. So, in fact, did you know I went to Independence while we were there, and I thought maybe I can catch Harry Truman walk. He used to walk his rounds every day, but I never got to hold of him. But anyway, we did have a wonderful week with them, got the new car, and just had a great time. And in conclusion, there's not too many words you can say about Joe, but there is a Yiddish expression which I think is the greatest tribute that one could give somebody. When you tell somebody he's a shena mensch. Thank you.
All right, would anybody else like to? Skip? Skip's taking pictures. You want to come? Here we go. Here's a guy that's had look inside my pop.
Basically, what I want to say is, how can you not love a man whose warmth emanates from such a beautiful, rich baritone voice? I got to tell you, folks, that it's a real privilege and obviously a pleasure to have married into the family. And I got to tell you that before I ever got married, I took a trip out here to the West Coast. I live on the East Coast, and met the family without my intended, right? And I came away with a very, very positive impression. Got to tell you that my wife said some things that were a little ambiguous about her father, and I gained an incredible amount of respect, delight, pleasure, insight, and genuine affection for this great guy. And obviously met all the other brothers as I was taken up the mountains, and then I was taken to Pasadena, and I was taken around, and it's indeed a pleasure for me to be here and participate with all of you and let you know my level of affection for Joe and the whole family.
All right, I gotta think of something.
Yeah, obviously passed the interview, right?
He was interviewing the family, but the family
They accepted it, yeah. Oh, his doctor, his cardiologist, now he got his dentist.
That's true. I am his dentist. It's been my pleasure over the years to be both the dentist to Aunt Lil and to the Colonel, as I call him. I don't know if anybody does that every time. I say, good morning, Colonel. He kind of chuckles and he said, hi, Skip, how are you? But he is such a decent guy. It was very interesting. I had the same experience as Alan. I got the same trip on the mountains. Janet used to take me up to Arrowhead, all these different places where Uncle Dave lived, everywhere else. And what was so interesting about this family was that the difference in all the brothers. Dave was entirely different than Harry. And Harry was so different than Uncle Joe, and Uncle Joe Well, there was nobody like my father and uncle, Big Lou, I'll tell you that. And I don't know if I've contributed a lot to the family, I hope I have, but I think I did originate the names, the various nicknames, the Colonel and Tanta Lil, and Little Thelma, Big Lou, Blue-Eyed Raymond. Raymond's the only one in the family with blue eyes, am I right? I mean, you know, one of the first cousins, there's a few. Am I right? Yeah, I said the cousins though. I mean the first generations. Well, they told me there was somebody in the family that had only one eye, and I never met them. They lived up in the mountain near Uncle Dave or something. But the thing I noticed about Uncle Joe was that obviously he's a man of integrity and he has his own opinions, and I think they're the highest. And yet he's a very tolerant guy. Now, I've had many a lunchtime. They come down, Aunt Lil and Tanta Lil and the Colonel come down, and we do dentistry, and then I take them to an Italian restaurant owned by a very conservative Marine. So it's kind of interesting. I was in the Navy, Uncle Joe was in the Army, and this guy's a Marine, and that's always has good conversations. He's a very conservative guy. I love the way Aunt Lil takes him on, though. She doesn't yell, she doesn't scream, she just smiles and sort of wins him over. But Uncle Joe has very strong feelings, but he's, and I'm sure the boys, Larry and the professor, know that. I mean, Larry is the professor, and Jimmy, I should say. And I don't think I've ever heard him come down on anybody. He respects everybody's opinions, and he may not embrace them himself, but he doesn't go out of his way to advertise that he's not totally in keeping. He's a very, very tolerant guy. I think Janet, has always been in awe of Uncle Joe, ought to now come after and take this microphone.
Oh, yeah.
She was, you know what? She was dreaming just then. She was sort of sleeping, and maybe I was talking too long. She did a lot. Janet and I. And Ronnie bought these are all the flowers you see they're not from out here, they're from San Diego County. Oh. They probably were grown out here, come down to San Diego. We brought them back up again, but we were shopping and getting this morning. So Janet, you ought to really come up and say something.
Yeah. All right, Janet!
Hey, Janet. Bring it over.
Uncle Joe, very happy birthday. And he knows how I feel about him. So I'll give it to my older sister. And she can speak for all the siblings.
Passing the buck.
Well, Alan and I, when we heard that it was going to be Uncle Joe's birthday and you were having a party, we decided that we absolutely had to be here. And actually, I was at his 70th and his 80th, so there was no way I was not going to be at his 90th. I have special memories of Uncle Joe and Aunt Lil because when I was a student at UCLA, I was getting my master's degree in English. They had just moved back to California and they were living in Century City. And so like at least once every 2 weeks they would have me over for dinner. And they gave me all their old towels. I moved into an apartment. They set me up. And those were the days I remember Robbie running around like a little, I don't know. He was so adorable and so cute. So I'm glad to see how he's grown. But anyway, it's amazing. Our family, even though Joe and Lil lived in Kansas City and Auntie Daisy and Uncle Lou and all their kids were in Columbus, Ohio, we all felt so close. I mean, it's a tribute to our family that we always knew what was happening with all the cousins. And we always felt really, really close. That's before email. And you could see today by the comments about there's Grandma, and there's Grandpa, and there are the twins, and there's Miriam. I mean, there's such love in our family. And I'm just really grateful, as a number of people here have said. And I just hope that, that our children continue to be happy and proud of being part of the Press family, and that they transmit this feeling to their children as well, because it was a very wonderful and special family. You can see how everybody has grown up and become contributing members of society. And I just remember the stories of how my grandma used to put on Yiddish plays so that they would, they raised the money to buy the first Torah for Pasadena, and that's just the kind of family that we are, and I hope that we will be for time immemorial. And God bless you, Uncle Joe.
Joe pledged the fraternity right when it started. He was probably in the charter class. They had a big dance at the ZBT house. So naturally, everyone brought a date. Well, there's 2 years difference between them, so he would have been bringing a high school junior to his fraternity dance, which would have looked a little embarrassing, I suppose. So for the one time, he accepted a blind date from, was she from a sorority? She was, I think, from one of the A5 sorority, and she turned out to be 100% dog meat. And I think that was far more embarrassing than being caught with a high school junior at a fraternity dance. That was the one and only time he ever tried it. And Aunt Lil told me that probably about 25 years ago. God bless you.
Any more stories? This guy's such a prince? Yeah, okay, Kenny, come up here. You didn't do it? Okay. Somebody said, I can't believe he's a lawyer. I don't exactly know why. He is.
Here come the lawyers.
You can say any bad things you want about lawyers. Jim mentioned that Joe was a ZBT. I was a ZBT too. In fact, I still, even today, run into people who were fraternity brothers of Joe's back in the 30s and have terrific memories of him. I remember when Larry wasn't a fraternity boy, but I remember when he was looking at colleges only a few years ago. He came through Columbus, and we went to the ZBT house at Ohio State and scored a steak dinner because of Joe, and that was good. And I was the only one who went on to be a ZBT, but the stories, I didn't get a lot of stories of him back then. I think because he was with Lilith, even back then, the wild stories have been suppressed. But my memories of Joe go back, back to the 40s. Whenever we would visit California, he would be there would be the colonel back from the war, and Lil. It was always a great time. Then they moved to Kansas City, and we used to stop in at Kansas City on the way from Ohio to California and back, and see what they were building there in the mountain in Kansas City. It was really quite something. And Joe would drive us through the tunnels of the mine, and he would turn the lights off. It would be pitch black, but he would still know where he was going on. I still haven't figured out how he did that. But it's been a lot of years, and it will be a lot of years more, and we're all most happy to wish Joe a happy 90th and many more to come.
And Uncle Joe and Aunt Lil came to visit, and we live in the country, and there was a horse that we used to ride. And my sister Cindy, who's sitting back there, she was teaching my daughter Julie to ride. It was about 5 years ago, I'd say, so he was 85 or maybe even 4 years ago. And Julie came up on the horse, and Joe was standing there admiring the horse, and he said, I think I'd like to try and ride the horse. So he gets on the horse, and he starts riding around our yard, a big yard. And he went around the house and disappeared, and when he came back around, it was going really fast. And his eyes were really big. But he stayed on, and he had a huge smile. He enjoyed it so much. And we got pictures, so if anyone wants to see them, we've got them. And I just really appreciated that about him, and I'll never forget that. And he's just a wonderful person, and we love him a lot. Happy birthday.
Here comes another one. While she's coming up, I'll tell you, like, I was back there too, and Cindy talked me on horseback riding, and then she had the horse kick me. That's the truth.
Well, you scared me to death when you went scuba diving or diving and never came back for 3 hours.
That too, because my leg hurt so bad from the horse kick.
Well, I don't have a funny story that I want to tell, but I didn't want to miss the chance to tell you that as Hy talked about you being a mensch, and I can't remember who was it that talked about your integrity, but I want to say it made a big difference to me as a little girl growing up that when we would come across country to see the family, I'd hear we'd get to go visit you and know that we'd get to see Jimmy and Larry and Pierre and Aunt Lil and Uncle Joe. And there was a way that I could tell that even before I got to know you myself, that you were kindred spirits with our family, that there was a respect and a way that we counted on your integrity and your belief in making things right politically and in your relationships with other people, that you were a model that was held up for us as we were growing up, and you've meant a lot to me. And I was remembering to Jim that as we saw the film, the video that you put together, that Abe told us a story when we visited in Alabama. He told a story of Mobile, and he told a story of the family of Grandma and Grandpa going to escaping across the border to Austria to raise enough money to get to the States, and that when Rachel was born, that they slipped across the border again because they couldn't bear to leave without showing her off. And he described Rachel and the little dress that she was wearing, and it's the picture. It's the dress that she's wearing in the picture that's in the Vigo household. And that story has always meant to me, it reminded me of how important family is to us and how important the children are in particular. And so when I see you and your children and your grandchildren, and I see that the pride and the love continues in our family, it means a lot to me. And I love you very much.
Okay. Have we anybody else wants to speak? I can see we're only going to get adulation and good stories. Yep. You may.
I must tell you folks, it's quite a kick to get involved with a family, an immediate family where you have to rent out the convention center for any function. But seriously, and by the way fellas, I've been involved for 15 years and I still haven't been taken to the mountain. In one's lifetime, you're very fortunate sometimes to meet two people like Joe and Lil. And as someone who has indeed been fortunate enough to meet them and to learn to love them as I do, I want to thank them for the impact and the embellishment of my life for knowing them. Is a hindrance von secure, Joe.
That was really nice. Did they make you go through the interview process? Whoa, they must have liked you. Okay, have I put trips on everybody enough that we should, is that it? All right, we've got a couple of other things. Thelma is saying that the next thing on the thing is that Andrea's going to sing a song. And then we've got a little bit more after that. I don't know, Thelma. We give Joe a chance first? No, she says Andrea. All right, Joe. Okay.
Okay, Selma?
Where's my sheet? Wait, I thought you were the senior spokesperson, not her. I didn't.
I'm overwhelmed. You can well understand. I kind of feel like I'm up here. I don't know if I need this or not. You all hear me? Yeah, I feel like I should be given I don't know, what kind of an award? A Tony Award, or some big Academy Award. But the thing is, I don't know what category. But I followed the awards program from its very inception, the last 25, 30 years, and I pretty well learned their format. The guy that's the winner rushes up to the podium, to the platform, and he kisses whoever opened the envelope. And then they spend the next few minutes, they're always under a rush for time, as we are this evening, thanking the people who made it possible for him to be there. In my case, of course, it's impossible to thank the two people that made it possible for me to be here. But I do want to thank each and every one of you sincerely for being here this evening. I know it was not easy for a lot of you, and it certainly was not cheap for all of you to be here this evening. For example, starting with Nancy's, old Nancy's client. Nancy, that's right.
Senior Nancy.
Senior Nancy, old Nancy, what's the difference?
At 90, you can say whatever you want.
And Debbie, and Ernie, and Julie, the little girl with the big mouth. They all flew in from Hawaii. Here's evidence. Cindy and Ronnie came in from Wyoming, Laramie, Wyoming. Evie and the new Nancy and Rebecca came in from Berkeley. My favorite cardiologist, Dr. Allen and Carol, came in from Baltimore. And they say doctors don't make house calls. Ronnie came in from New Mexico.
He's taking pictures back there.
He's here. He was in New Mexico this morning. Kenny and Marilyn came in from Tiburon. Richard came in from San Francisco. My grandson Jason flew in from Hong Kong. Unfortunately, he had to be back today. He was here for my actual birthday, which was the 30th of April. Now, little sister Daisy, I expected her to be here. But wasn't it cool that she brought with her daughter Eileen and her granddaughter Sarah from Toronto, Canada? That was special. It seemed everybody came from far away. The rest of you, most of you came from San Diego County, Los Angeles County, Orange County, San Bernardino County. It meant at least a 3-hour round trip for you, and a lot of you staying over at the expense of a hotel. The people that are local, people that are indigenous, Palm Springs, I think, could be counted on the fingers of one hand. So I'm very pleased that you honor me. I'm flattered that you all went to all that expense and trouble to be here to make this such a wonderful affair for me. Now, this affair doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of planning and manpower to put it together, particularly when you're dealing with people from all over the world. But in our case, it didn't take manpower, it took woman power. Little Thelma, with a teacher. Little Thelma was the chief operating officer of this affair. She was the CEO. And she had the good judgment of having a very intelligent staff helping her. You've heard the invitations I was particularly pleased with. Oh, yeah. They were designed and produced and mailed by Raymond and Gavin. And they tell me they were kind of cute. And for the rest of the program, she enlisted people like our first loves, Larry and Jim, and their wives, Marcella and Linda. So it's really been a great affair. As much as I'm enjoying this affair, I've got to tell you something else. We attended an affair earlier this month on April the 2nd, which thrilled me. The Episcopalian Church of Palm Springs decided to honor all couples who have been married 50 years or more. Father Green, Andy Green, who is the chief priest of the Episcopalian Church, is also an advisor to the Mizell Senior Center, which you know I've been involved in since its inception. And he thought it would be nice to allow couples that belong to the Senior Center to come to this service and celebration. We thought it was a good idea, but you realize that the Senior Center is non-sectarian. So we had to adjust the program, enlarge the program to cover a wider range of religions. So what he did, he invited Rabbi Ofsinger, the rabbi of our temple, to help him develop and present the program, which was an excellent idea and it went very well. When we got to the church, they were very, very well organized. They took pictures. They questioned us how long we were married. And it was a lovely church. I was particularly impressed with the stained windows. And they had a lovely choir and a male vocalist. During the service, there was one other person. There was a visiting bishop for this part of the country, visiting Dr. Green. So he too was on the pulpit. There were three, the rabbi, the bishop, and Green. The service went very well. When the Christian couples we renewed our vows. And when the Christian couples renewed their vows, they stood up and Andy Green, Father Green, performed the ceremony. And when the Jewish couple stood up, Rabbi gave us a blessing. After the service, we all adjourned to the social hall, where the whole congregation was very, very warm. They congratulated us, and they served very nicely. Toward the end of the celebration, they announced over the loudspeaker, "Will Lillian Press and Joe Press please come forward?" Which we did. When we got to the stage area, they presented Lillian with a tremendous bouquet of roses. And they announced that it's their custom to give these flowers to the couple that have been married the longest. Our 65 years went by 2 years. I tell you this because there's nothing could make me happier, give me more pleasure than to know that Lillian's been by my side, really been part of me for the last 65 years. And so I say I've got 2 Oscars, one for longevity and the other one for having Lillian at my side for 65 years.
Listen, but before Andrea, Pops is talking about winning an Oscar and all these awards and something. We've got something for him. Just 1 second. This is gonna be.
I don't know if I covered all the people that put themselves out for me. We have 3 granddaughters living in New York with their husbands. But their lifestyle is so screwed up, in my opinion. They couldn't coordinate a time, a date when they could get together, but I'm sure we'll be seeing them before very long. Anybody else I forgot?
It's hard to get this mic away from him, isn't it? Wow. So, speaking of Oscars, speaking of awards, we've gotten together. Yeah, we don't really need the mic that much. Pops, we have a...
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I thank you, whoever contributed this. I'll have it for the rest of my days.
We hope you enjoy it. Now you've got to kiss everybody and thank everybody like you said, right? Man, sit down. Okay. Forget it. All right. Well, actually, while we're thanking, we should also thank the fantastic video editor, which is Linda, and the tremendous collage maker, Marcella. All right. And, ta-da. Okay. Would you like to sing for us, please? We're gonna...
With you, and time has flown, living each day more than the day before, as time rolls on. And now the springtime has gone, and still our love lingers on. I'll be loving you always, with a love that's true always. When the things you plan need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair always. That's when I'll be there always. Not for just enough, not for just a day, not for just a year, but always.
Jim, the second song I'd like to do, and we're going to do one of my favorite songs with a little bit of a twist.
This is a very serious moment. This is after 2 gin and tonics, folks.
The more I read the papers, the less I comprehend the world and all its capers, and how it all will end. Nothing seems to be lasting, but that isn't our affair. We got something permanent
yeah, did you want ABC? Yeah. Oh, my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay. But our love is here to stay.
You should cut the first piece. Yes.
Very good. It was great. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.